Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. Welcome to SDH for another week. John, hear you there. And it is that week in the 2-week period when it comes to Major League Soccer where you hit the windows. And it is entry, it's re-entry, it's waivers, it's the half-day trade deadline show that we kind of have, and we drift in and out, and we let you know those kinds of things. So we're kind of getting into that particular part of the season. We've also got an MLS Cup final. We've also got some news related to the MLS Cup final involving a player in particular. And frankly, the stunning work that this particular person did outside of normal behavior. Morning, Abby. Happy Cyber Monday. That'll be a part of opening kickoff, by the way. Opening kickoff probably has like 2 or 3 separate things. So traditional Monday, I know that Bart's going to be joining us in hour number 2 because we've got to talk about the women's national team and what happened with the matchup against England. And it will give Bart a chance to continue discussing the perpetual virtues of Naomi Girma. It was Emma Hayes coming home in front of 11 gazillion people in attendance for this particular match. Wiegman versus Hayes. We'll get into that in hour number 2 with Bart. And I know that Bart also wants to talk about his beloved West by God, Virginia, where apparently Neil Brown is out at 6-6 in the American football side of things. So Bart has apparently a rant having to do with West Virginia football. And you know, we are not above crossing the streams here on the morning show because it is that rivalry time in college football. And it also gives us a chance to plug the college football shows that we have over at OSG Sports, where the review is now up and running, where we actually had a rather large class last time out. So it was myself, Marty Zarenko, based in Dallas, John Fox, who was on the road chasing after one of his favorite jam bands, and I think he was in Westchester, New York, in a hotel room. And it's Phil Cantor and John Wilkerson. So the 5 of us were there, taped it, and released it yesterday, very early this morning. So set your notifications for that. John Wilkerson and I have the review coming up in the midweek. We're going to be joined by the play-by-play voice of Arizona State football, American football, as a part of our discussion there. We'll go over the week that was, get you ready for the championship games, football on a budget, all that kind of stuff. So that's your plug for the college football side over at OSG Sports. So a morning 4 card. And we've got a lot of things to get into overseas. Might be today and tomorrow, depending on where we are. There's some fun stuff involving the FA Cup and moments that is kind of kickoff-ish that we might hold. Like I said, we've got, we have a lot of things to get into from a lot of different places, and that's kind of where we are. We got the college game to get into this week. We are tracking down, and we can do this because they continue winning. The SDH bump does, in fact, live. Later this afternoon on tape, we're going to catch up with Sue Patberg, the head coach at Emory. Emory is in the Final Four. They're heading to Las Vegas in Division III. Big win for Clayton State on the men's side. They knocked off Limestone in overtime, and they continue on in the Division II men's championship. They're going to be facing Lynn University out of Florida next weekend. So we're efforting Clayton State. We are efforting the physical property of a completed interview with our friends at Emory. And Columbus State, the Cougars won yesterday on the women's side in Division II, and they await their opponent coming up next weekend. They knocked off the University of North Georgia. So Columbus State's women continue to win in Division II. Clayton State's men continue to win in Division II. Emory's women continue to win in Division III. And so we're going to continue to chase down those guests and those coaches as we go. See if we can get some of them live this week because of the space that we have and the morning show that we have. So it's a couple of different things there. And we also want to catch up over time here in December with our friends in Western North Carolina. I don't know if you saw Scott Wells' post from his account attached to Gardner Webb's soccer program, but I want to catch up with all of them and find out how they are and what do they need? Do they need anything? Are they okay? What do they need from us? How did their seasons go? What was it like? What did they learn? That kind of stuff. So we'll catch up with our friends in Western North Carolina as well and find out how they are and find out what they're up to. So busy times. Like I said, we have the MLS deadlines and the intrigue of the end of the season. MLS Cup's coming up this weekend. It's Red Bulls and it is LAG. We'll talk about that. A couple of different things that we have going on this morning. So plenty to talk about, whatever's on your mind from the weekend. Howdy. I think that's what the folks at Texas A&M say. Morning, OG. So it's good to have all of you here with us this morning. All right. Opening kickoff. Let's see. Which version of opening? Actually, tell you what. Yeah, let's do the short version because there's some other things we'll get into. Okay, Cyber Monday. Opening kickoff. Brought to you by your friends and all of our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And here is the QR code. Thank you, Abby. Right there. There's your kickoff code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. What you do is you hit that QR code. You want to kick off your day with Kickoff Coffee. It takes you into their website and their app and the places that you can pick up their coffee. What you do is you pick up the coffee and you use the code soccer down here 15 at checkout. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives, very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, Cyber Monday. And so Abby mentions Happy Cyber Monday. How much of your shopping after today, and you know that that people and businesses will continue to tease even after today. Hey, Cyber Monday still going on. We still have some time. You still have some time left up until midnight, tomorrow or Wednesday. After Cyber Monday, how much of your shopping is done? I am a 12-month-a-year shopper, so I'm a really bad example as to how much of my shopping is done. It's kind of done in fits and starts and stages. Admittedly, I still have half, maybe half of maybe half of my shopping done. I'm thinking that's about right. So, how much of your shopping is done at this point? How much of your shopping is done, completed, done? And then after today, how much of your shopping is done? How much of your shopping do you get done on Cyber Monday? And how much of it was already done heading into today? So that's the larger question that I have is, if I am someone that shops consistently through the year, like I said, I don't know if I'm a good gauge for letting everybody else know how much shopping I've done. Because then, and I'm also an impulse shopper where, in addition to shopping year round, if I see a bargain and I know that something's going to fit for somebody, then I'll do that. Rich, we'll put a bookmark in that for hour number 1 because that's sports business. So our intrepid producer from Philadelphia, Rich Ransom, so from the Pennsylvania precinct, reporting in this morning. Good morning, Rich. So, like I said, I'm probably a bad example, but I wanted to ask and see if, being a bad example, if I was on par with everybody else, or if I'm behind, or if I'm ahead, or all these kinds of things. Morning, Pars. So that's my biggest question this morning as we roll through here, Cyber Monday. How much shopping do you get done today? Are you done after today? Outside of the impulse, I think that person will like this. Like the heavyweight shopping that you're locked into your gifts, you're locked into your guests, you know what's going on. How much is done after today? And then, and like I said, outside of the whole notion of, I like in the shiny object shopping, the impulse shopping that we do, of the hardcore list of shopping and gifts and people, after Cyber Monday, how much of your shopping is done? Just a question. That's what I was wondering as I was trying to get everything ready for this morning. It's like, okay, Cyber Monday, you see all the ads pop up in your emails and everything. It's Cyber Monday here, Cyber Monday here, Cyber Monday here. So that was my question for the morning when it came to opening kickoff anyway, is what's the deal with your shopping and your Cyber Monday and all that kind of stuff. So that's where my head was with that. So bad example, me. Most of it's done, but I shop 12 months out of the year. So that's why I said I wanted to compare notes this morning for opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So early precincts reporting in. Abby says she's lucky and doesn't have to shop, doing the traditional Hanukkah, which does not entail gifts. Never have to do any shopping except during the year for birthdays. Pars says already nearly completely done shopping. Already nearly completely done. That sounds like there's some impulse shopping that's going to be done there, Pars. Maybe one or two people left on the list. And morning Rich and morning Pars, morning Abby, morning OG, morning 4Card. And so I'm like I said, I'm comparing notes this morning. Like I said, horrible example me, but I just wanted to ask where folks were in their Cyber Monday shopping and if you're done after like today. But of course, we all know that Cyber Monday shopping will lend itself into Tuesday and Wednesday. Say Cyber Monday. Hey, we still got some stuff here. We still got some stuff to do. We still got some stuff going on. Panic sets in. Oh crap! I feel left out, and all that kind of stuff. Might help if I actually send an email. So it's like you get whatever the heck else is going on, and it's like you're wondering why folks aren't popping in. It's like, well, hey, you know why? Because you didn't send the email. I feel like I need dialing music or something. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's a studio space, so we'll see. So nothing like wondering why folks aren't around, and then you find out why folks aren't around. Abby really hasn't started. It did. All right, so that's stage one of opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That once again, there's your QR code, and it is really just play Jeopardy. Well, but then I get in trouble with the copyrights. I get in trouble with the copyrights if I do that kind of stuff. OG. So that's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out and you're wanting to start your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that. You go in, you check out, Soccer Down Here 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it, youth games, youth initiatives, Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Not to be outdone. It is our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. And what you can do is you can buy the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear, sweatshirt, t-shirt in the red or in the black that you get from Atlanta United. And then what you can do if you purchase the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear from our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co., you can, in fact, portion of the proceeds go and help out middle school soccer programs tied to Atlanta Public Schools. And so you can do that by picking up the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear with our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. Not to be outdone. Round number 3 of ways that you can help out. And I tried to save it, and I tried to save it as a JPEG, and it ended up, it's like, here's a web page. And I'm like, I don't want the web page. I don't want the web page. What I want is just the picture. Go to our friends at Olive and York. And if you have missed it, we now have our own supporters kit with our friends at Olive and York. And once again, proceeds going to help out soccer-specific organizations, this and any future kit. Once again, soccer-specific organizations helped out in the southeastern United States. Order shipping 4 to 5 weeks after purchase. It's a sublimated badge, and it is a loose fit. So a portion of the proceeds from this and any future kit that SDH combines with Olive and York with, donated to soccer-specific organizations throughout the southeastern United States. I think Jason will announce those that we are helping out in 2025. So here is the link. Once again, there's the link. And you can get your Olive and York SDH kit right there. Olive and York SDH kit. It's really cool. Thanks to our friends once again at Kaiser Permanente, Scott Flood and the Flood Project, doing a lot of yeoman's work to get that done. So soccer kit, Olive and York, SDH. You can go there, you can pick it up, you can buy it, and you end up with everything there. And so, because John's an idiot, and he didn't send the link out in time, I am. I'm going to do a bit of a crash course with Abe this morning because, yeah, I'm adult. It's a Monday. Ooh! I got to find out what he's wearing. All right, so here we go. He's all settled in. So, what are you wearing, Abe?
I'm just wearing a Puma T-shirt. I
Oh,
guess it
okay.
is maybe soccer oriented with a little crest, but it's not anything country specific. I apologize for my cell phone situation. I have like multiple contingencies to remind myself to bring my computer, and it's sitting at home right by the doorway. So we're on the phone today.
That's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Well, if I had sent you the link at 9:05, it would have been, we'd be all there. Since last time we talked, Garth Lagerwey had his press conference and discussed the future, and Rob Valentino is not a part of that future with Atlanta United as the head coach coming up in the 2025 season. Now we've had that. We're trying to figure out, okay, is it a technical director then coach? Is it coach then technical director? Does everybody sit across the table? Do they break bread? Do they go to an Italian restaurant and have a 5-course meal? Is it speed dating? Is it 2 minutes with this guy? You hear a ding. Garth hits a bell and you go to the next guy at the next table. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's start with Rob Valentino. I don't think we were overly surprised that he's not going to be the choice. I think certainly the timeline and a lack of announcement sort of led towards that direction. But I do think there are a lot of people who were disappointed and certainly liked the late season movement of the squad. But Garth Lagerwey made it very clear they're looking for someone with a little bit more experience. And look, as the guy essentially running the team, that's certainly up to him if that's what he wants. I'm not in love with the timeline he presented. I mean, he talked about hoping to have this stuff in place by Christmas. I'm sitting here, I'm like, Christmas. We haven't even gotten to Thanksgiving yet. At the time he made these comments, that's 5 weeks away. Like, what's the timeline? Why is it taking so long? Maybe it has something to do with teams that are still involved in MLS Cup playoffs. Certainly, we're down to two now, so unless it's one of those two teams, but wasn't in love with the timeline, especially when training camp's going to be right around the corner by the time you get things set in place. But I'm interested. I'm interested to see who they settle on and kind of what the arguments for that person over Rob Valentino ultimately is going to be. I'm hoping it's more than just experience. I think we've seen across sports, just because you have experience doesn't mean you're the right guy for the job. Just because you don't have experience doesn't mean you're the wrong guy for the job. So I think you're coming in, and there's going to be expectations. That's the other aspect of this. Whether you want to believe it or not, whether you feel like there's a rebuilding phase and a lot of movement is going on. We said goodbye to. I talked with you about the future. I was like, everyone up top is up for grabs, and we've seen departures already up top. I mean, based on how this season ended, based on the eliminating Miami and an unfortunate end to Orlando City, there's going to be expectations coming in. This is not going to be viewed as a rebuild, at least not by the fan base. Whether the team views it that way is one thing. The fan base is not going to. And so it's got to be a situation where this coach can get up and running immediately and see some results. I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but the expectations coming into this past season were top four in the East, one of the most potent offenses in the entire MLS. I'm not saying you're necessarily going to have those expectations, but battling for a home playoff game is going to be among them, especially the way you ended the season with, I think, 6 of your last 8 or 5 of your last 7 being wins. Um, that's going to be the expectation. So they need to get a guy in quick if they're going to make severe changes and adjustments to the formations and what they're asking players to do and the roles of each guy, stuff like that. Get it in quicker. And so I'd be quite frankly disappointed if we're still sitting here, mid December, late December, without a name yet. So hopefully this gets done quick and we can start to move forward.
What kind of an individual are you looking for in a head coach?
Me specifically,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the tactics and trying to bring in a head coach that maybe fits the personnel or doesn't fit the personnel. I think there's enough changeover over the course of a given year. I think you also have a team that's quite young, based on who is going to stay and who's going to go. That you can probably mold and shape some sorts of playing styles. And I also think you're going to have a team that is full of player leadership, especially with Goose coming back. And congratulations to him. I know there was a little bit of question on that. But I do think you're going to have some player leadership that's going to help out the coach to player messaging. So I'm looking for a winner, and I know that's easy to say, but I need someone that's going to look like he makes a difference, and I don't really know how you do that necessarily. I don't think it's about motivation. Like one of my biggest concerns about the Rob Valentino hire, if he would have been here, is you can't play the way you played like the last third of the season, or really the last 8 games. Like you can't play with that mindset and mentality and desperation the whole season. Like you're just going to burn yourself out. So you need to be able to find wins without feeling like your back is against the wall. You got to get a coach who can get this team off to better starts. Again, they solved that issue for the most part in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 games. But it was a serious issue early on. And so, yeah, I'm just looking for someone that you can look at the team, and he makes changes over the course of a game, over the course of the season, that you say it feels like he had an impact on the results. I don't know how you get that. Maybe it's just his general mindset, mantra, and playing style to begin games. Maybe it's in-game adjustments, substitution patterns. Maybe it's just maximizing the talent that you have, finding something we didn't know was available to us. But I just want a coach that I feel like is going to um, essentially make a difference in results. And that's a very tough ask in this sort of sport. You're not exactly diagramming play calls and scripting your first 15 plays or stuff like that. But I just want to feel like the managers makes a difference. And hopefully we can find that guy.
All right, another couple of minutes with Abe before he actually goes to work for, like getting paid to do things here on a Reaction Monday. Uh, player announcements were made also that were attached to this. Roster looks like it's pretty much going to be the same. 18 players under contract, exercised options on 4, in discussions with 3. Brad, Efred, Jay, Santi had their contract options exercised with Santi Sosa. It's because there is a team that is interested in South America and picking him up. And so what you do is you pick up the option to make sure you get paid. So that one's where that is. 6 players' contract options declined: Centeno, Firmino, Ronald Hernandez, Franco Ibarra, Jamal, and Tyler. Club remains in negotiations with Ronald, Jamal, and Tyler. All players eligible for the re-entry draft except for Tyler Wolff, who goes on waivers. Loan for Daniel Rios expires at the end of the calendar year. Daxon Q and Quentin Westberg retire. Any surprises out of that for you?
No, I really don't think so. We'll see who they end up bringing back. I think that could lean into my surprised or not surprised. But the obvious is the obvious. With respect to Rios and Wolf and TRA, you need someone more potent up top. Someone that you can really just have a little bit more faith in.
Yeah.
So if those guys are back, I don't really expect it to be with the same expectations and necessarily the same role as we saw them in this year, at least not for TRA. And I know he's getting up there in age. I don't know, levels of fitness at that age in this sport. When their prime is probably the youngest prime that you're going to have across any major sport. It might be in soccer. Unless you're a running back in the NFL. But outside of that, so no, I don't think any surprises. I really was. I wouldn't say nervous is not the right word, but full of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
If they were going to bring Guzan back, I think certainly there would be an understanding of the timeline for him, and more specifically, a timeline for Josh Cohen. I think Goose, to his credit, made that an incredibly difficult decision, and maybe a decision that was easy in the other direction to bring him back and give him one more year. I don't think they necessarily planned on it. I think they saw the form last year. They bring in Cohen. They set this timeline. We're going to let Goose ride out into the sun. And he's got a complete throwback season. And so I think they had an original plan, and this is just me. I have no idea what the team's mindset is, but I think the original plan was a line of succession, and this was going to be Goose's last year, and Josh Cohen was going to come in and take over the starting role, and we move forward. I think Goose played so well, he made it an easy decision the other direction to say, hey, we're going to scrap that plan. This guy's still got it. We're going to go with him one more year. I think he's important to a team that's full of young guys that are still trying to build together. Probably also again, if it were a different situation with your manager, but I think Goose's experience can go beyond the field and be very important, integral in communication between the manager and the rest of the team. I think that's an important aspect that I don't want to overlook as well. So the biggest surprise, which really isn't that big of a surprise based on how he performed, especially down the stretch, would be Goose coming back.
Yeah.
If you had told me at midseason, I was like, yeah, they're probably going to let him ride off sunset, and it's Cohen's turn. But that's not the case. I'm very happy to see that be the case. But of all the ones that were kind of minor surprises, maybe that one. And then Ronald Hernandez, I think, has been so incredibly valuable for this team because of the variety of roles he can play. He's so flexible as a player that obviously contract wise they had to do what they had to do, but I would be a little surprised if they don't find a way to get him back in the organization.
All right, the fourth held up the light board, and they added some minutes here. We went past that fourth, what the fourth was doing. What's your week like so you can get out of here and go get paid to work?
Yeah, relatively normal this week, to be honest. We got through the post Thanksgiving nonsense, um, and so we're just driving forward. Really enjoyed. I know it was a day full of college football Saturday, but really did enjoy the MLS Cup playoffs, the conference semifinals here. So looking forward to MLS Cup when we get there. But it was actually a pretty good week of competitive soccer there in the MLS. So I know a lot of people missed it. I was on the computer with the four TVs turned up to college football, but I was tuned in, ready to roll, and it paid off with some quality soccer.
All right, my friend, get out of here. We'll see you next Monday.
You got it. Appreciate it.
There we go. That's Abe. And Abe's going to go and work at 92.9 in the game and actually get paid for a living. And he's done talking with us. All right, so there you go. Abby's asking about Liam Welch and all the assistants. They are, much like Rob, under contract, I want to say, till the end of the calendar year. Then we may have some answers as to what their futures are, but do not know about the futures of the assistant coaches. And the whole idea of I know that morning Rich, David Moyes, yeah. See, now Rich, you could probably just as easily sit there and say Sam Allardyce, and I can guarantee you, I'm sure that somebody attached to Sam Allardyce probably sent a resume into the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground to try and it's like, hey, Big Sam's available. Hey, check it out, But that was like way back in the summer, I'm sure that there was a LinkedIn request from Sam Allardyce to Garth Lagerwey or Atlanta United or wherever it was. So, yeah. So, yeah, David Moyes. David Moyes apparently is linked to some possible openings in the Premier League if things do not go certain ways for certain coaches. But like I said, we got that to get into because it's a multiple match week fixture fantasy teams when it comes to that. But David Moyes. David Moyes, everybody. There you go. 4 cards, like I guess MLS will say, no news to distract from MLS Cup this week. And that could very well be. You don't want to upstage. And legitimately, you only have 6 weeks before training camp. Since we're in December, it is literally mid-January is training camp. And if you are a club, then you don't want to distract from MLS Cup, although there were some teams that did some things going into the weekend and through the weekend that we haven't had the chance to talk about that we will here coming up in just a sec. But are we happy that the purple team lost to Red Bulls? Abby says she hates both of them, but she hates the purple team more. I understand that. Absolutely true. Morning Will. Abby says a 1-year contract would have been nice for Rob. Some of them met, the supporters met with Garth early October. Sort of knew from what was said Rob wasn't going to be the pick, but we're still hoping. Will is suggesting the likes of Jim Curtin and Gio Savarese going through the roster moves. Jamal liked him, but he's way too injury prone. And yes, Abby has to pay attention to the flags in the stadium, assuming Liam's going to stay since he's the keeper coach. Michael says, think Garth's done a disservice to the next coach. Immediately has to be better than Rob, better win and win fast. And so Derek is like, yeah, love to see it. And the acronym OFYO. Okay, so Abe mentioned what happened this past weekend. Abby's mentioned it as well. You had Red Bulls beat the purple team. That was the, and if under a traditional environment, the final being Red Bulls and LAG, it would be tremendous, because if you are over the air and you are a network, you're looking at New Jersey and you're looking at Los Angeles. In theory, you might have 8 people watching from New Jersey, considering it's not really New York. But then Los Angeles would be locked in. Place would be sold out. Dignity Health Sports Park, Carson, California. It would be sold out. And so in a traditional sense, with the matchup being what it is, if it was the old days, and I mean literally just like 2 years ago, the networks would be pleased that you would have the 2 major media markets, one being somewhat adjacent and the other one being right there, attached to a final. With the way things are now, involving the television partner or the streaming service instead of a television partner, the streaming service that is now attached to the contract for Major League Soccer, I wonder, and these are numbers that we don't get unless there is a press release after the fact, where MLS Cup will have X number of viewers, X number of, good, Rich, thank you. So the final is on Big FOX. Okay. So that will be interesting. So I retract my statement to a certain degree. So you have free side of Apple TV, Fox Deportes. Okay. So they've looped back. All right. So I take back part of my opening statement. I wonder, now I will tweak what I was saying. I wonder what the numbers will be. I wonder what the streaming numbers will be. I wonder what the minutes will be when it comes to the streaming service in and of itself. And I wonder what, with LA and New York adjacent, if the numbers will be impacted one way or the other when it comes to streaming versus over the air. Will the over the air audience be less? Will it be more, because it is the 2 major media markets, one media and one media adjacent? I'm intrigued, and I'm intrigued at how, because you know that Fox and Fox Deportes will sit there and they will tout their numbers, and they will salute, and they will have trumpets going on in the air and all this kind of stuff. And you look at Apple TV, and I wonder just how much information we will get from them at the end of the day about subscribers, streaming minutes, peak time, because we get all this information in traditional over-the-air television. We get that. But I wonder how much of that same information we'll be getting from Apple TV. It would be nice to have some kind of metrics, because Peacock does it all the time. Peacock does it all the time, and they sit there and they'll be like, well, we had this many minutes and this many people, and this was our peak viewing period, and this and this and this and this and this. So I wonder if Apple TV will, this time next week, or probably Tuesday or something, after they do their analysis, Fox and Fox Deportes will get you the overnights, and they'll get you the quick numbers and that kind of a thing. So you get a quick rating, you get a quick number, you get quick households, and then that'll roll over into the early part of next week. I wonder how much information we get from Apple. Just genuinely curious, because this is the top 2 media markets, and what it will look like. So that to me is my biggest thought pattern involving the top two media markets, not having to do with the folks in Fort Lauderdale for a championship game. What does it look like? I want to know. I will be intrigued as to what Apple tells us this time next week or 8 days from now. Now, Michael Valverde comes up with a point. The Puig injury completely changes the match on Saturday. I think it makes New York's chances way better. We'll get into juice boxes in a bit. We'll monitor them as we go. But here are two moments from late in the match involving that particular gentleman and what he was up to for his club as LAG would eventually win the Western Conference Final over Seattle Sounders. Once again, courtesy of our friends at Apple TV and Major League Soccer.
Yellow card challenge, but good.
First time to Delgado. Delgado drives it. Jovic and Peck and Pooch. Big block. Nuhu.
I mean, this is a team that scored 15 goals in 3 games. Now, granted, some of those, when the game's gone, you know, me being the wet blanket that I am, but it is.
Pooch. Jovic!
Wow! Oh, here we are pontificating about Seattle, and it's just a bad giveaway from Alex Roldan. Spacing's there, you lose possession, and for the first time in this entire second half, spaces were there to be had. But everybody talks about Pooch and Paintsill and Peck. How about Jovic? 20-plus goals in all competitions, and the biggest one in the Western Conference Final. 10 years since they've hosted this thing.
10 years, man. I feel like Jeremy Piven in Grosse Pointe Blank. 10 years. But anyway, I played those two moments for a reason. I don't know how many of you watched the Western Conference Final. We had a watch along at SDH, and Jason doing the yeoman job that he was. We all kind of dropped in for the Eastern Conference Final. I had to leave because the boss came home after spending a week with the mother-in-law. And so Jason did the yeoman work, and he was there with you guys for the end of the watch-along on our YouTube channel. Ricky Puig, after the match, had a towel over his head and was hugging Greg Vanney, and they were having a conversation. It was divulged that Ricky Puig had a knee injury or suffered a knee injury in the game. In the game. Ricky Puig got a knee injury in the match and played the final 30 minutes with it. That included those two moments that we played for you just a bit ago. Sunday, the Galaxy confirmed Ricky Puig suffered a torn ACL in his left knee. He's going to miss MLS Cup. Torn ACL revealed in an MRI performed on Sunday morning. This is from LA Galaxy's front office. Puig sustained the injury in the second half of the match, continuing to play over 30 minutes despite his injury, providing the game-winning assist on Jovic's 85th minute goal. Puig will undergo surgery on a date to be determined. I'm guessing they've got to let the swelling go down, and they've got to get into a safe point to where they can fix the ACL. 17 and 20 this year, 37 goal contributions in 36 matches played, all comps. 4 matches played, 4 starts in the playoffs, 4 goals, 4 assists. Finished the MLS regular season 16 and 14 in 29 matches played, 28 starts. 30 goal contributions in MLS regular season play. 37 goal contributions, 36 matches played, 34 starts, all comps. So that came from LA Galaxy last night about 7 o'clock. Right now, juice boxes have LAG at a minus 122. 90-minute draws a plus 288. Red Bulls to win in 90 minutes a plus 289. Derek mentions the burying of the lead by LAG in that press release. Ricky Puig played 30 minutes on a torn ACL. That included the imagination and the passing that we saw in the first 60 minutes, thinking, yeah, okay, Ricky Puig going to Ricky Puig. Now, of course, we're all going to sit there and go back and go, okay, what was the moment where it happened when we go back and watch the match? But Ricky Puig played 30 minutes on a torn ACL and got the assist on the goal to the Bishop, Dejan Joveljic, which got LAG into MLS Cup final. I will be intrigued to find out how Greg Vanney will, I'm not going to use the word fix, alter his lineup and figure out who's going to be the person pulling the strings. Is it Diego Fagundes? I will be intrigued to listen to what's going on with Greg Vanney this week as how he administers a fix to the lineup with the injury to Ricky Puig. But Derek had it from the press release. They buried the lead. Ricky Puig played 30 minutes with a torn ACL and continued to do what he did. Looked about as normal as it was. 7 o'clock last night, we find out he's got a torn ACL. And that added the context to me anyway, seeing Ricky Puig literally with a towel over his head talking to Vanney. And then there was the moment that Puig had with his parents where I think that Puig's back was to the camera and there was no way to read, obviously, Ricky Puig's lips. But I think he was breaking the news to his dad that something ain't right. So Ricky Puig played 30 minutes on a torn ACL and included the game-winning assist on the goal that got them to MLS Cup. Once again, I will be intrigued as to see what Greg Vanney does and how his lineup is different come this weekend. Rich says he still thinks that the Galaxy win. Orlando wasn't ready for the moment against the Red Bulls. Galaxy would be. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tall order for Red Bulls, but we've seen with Red Bulls that this is not our normal Red Bull. They are so much different with Emil Forsberg in that lineup that we have seen the difference with Red Bulls with and without. Had Forsberg been healthy, they would not have been the seed that they were. That is obvious to me anyway. So Emil Forsberg, had he been healthy, they would have been higher up in the standings. So I think it's a bit of a false read as to, well, they're only, the seed that they are, when in fact they are a far better team than that. But right now, heading into Los Angeles for MLS Cup, they are a plus 289 heading out to California. Heading out to California, a plus 289. Obviously, we'll monitor that as we go this week. But, yeah, Red Bulls as a 7 seed. I'm sorry, they're not a 7 seed. But we will see once again how Sandro Schwartz attacks LAG without Ricky Puig. And Rich about ratings. As the Black Helicopter folks like to say, MLS and Apple don't like the ratings. They don't release the numbers. So there you go. David talking about TV markets. New York City and Boca Fort Lauderdale, pretty much the same population, just older down south. Miami and Red Bulls, same thing, right? Oh, man. Let's see. Will was discussing the coaching vacancy for Atlanta United. Mentioned a couple of names. Jim Curtin, Gio Savarese. I think that one of those individuals probably is going to be sought after by another team. And that team is Toronto. Bart Keeler joining us in about 10 minutes. Of course, happening in a Friday news dump situation. So I give Toronto FC a boatload of credit for this, by the way. In a Friday news dump where the United States media is in Black Friday mode the day after Thanksgiving, it's still a holiday weekend. It's a 4-day weekend for the U.S. media and for people in the United States. All right, so U.S. news media is in a holiday weekend, 4-day weekend. 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, you get this from Toronto FC. Toronto FC announced today that John Herdman has resigned his position as head coach of the club effective today. Quote, personally, I have made the difficult decision that it's the right time for me to step away from the club as the organization defines its vision for the future, said Herdman. Continues. It has been an honor to wear the Toronto FC crest and contribute to the growth of the club. Working with this dedicated group of players and staff has been a true privilege. I want to thank Keith Pelly and MLSE ownership for the opportunity, and I also want to thank the incredible fans for the support they've shown me both on and off the pitch. I wish the organization success going forward, and I look forward to the next chapter in my career. Keith Pelly had a quote. Last sentence. Toronto FC, Herdman was named head coach of Toronto FC in August 2023. During his tenure, he guided the Reds to the Leagues Cup group stage in the Canadian Championship final. That's the end of the press release. And Rich quoting the line of the day, traditionally in this situation. Morning, Harry. For us here, like I said, the U.S. media was in a 4-day weekend, which is 90% of the franchises in Major League Soccer. But at 3:57, as it was released by Toronto FC on a Friday anyway, you get that from Toronto FC. So John Herdman, in his press release, I have made the difficult decision that it's the right time for me to step away from the club as the organization defines its vision for the future. I have made the difficult decision. It's the right time for me to step away. Sure you have. With everything going on right now, with all the investigations, personally, I have made the decision it's time to step away. You want to talk about helicopters and thought patterns and really? I mean, this is a Seth and Amy moment of a really? And yes, Rich, as the line, Rich says, or a Friday in Canada, LOL. That is an offshoot of a beautiful line from Jay Onright, who is a longtime Sports Center TSN host, where there was a one-liner that he dropped once having to do with last week. And he said, there are no games, and I'm paraphrasing, there are no National Hockey League games today, meaning on Thanksgiving Day here in the United States, because it is American Thanksgiving, or as we in Canada call it, Thursday. He goes right on with the highlights. So yes, Rich with the offshoot of that Jay Onright line. It was Friday in Canada. So it was a Friday news dump in Canada, and it was a 4-day weekend news dump in the United States. So that was where you ended up with John Herdman coming out with this couple of sentences, Keith Pelly coming out with a couple of sentences in a news dump to beat all news dumps. So the OG TFC can't envision a cheater as its head coach. And Rich says, yeah, can't be fired if I quit. I'm guessing this is one of those wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How about you do this kind of a deal? I'm guessing there was some kind of a settlement. Tell you what, we will pay you X. Just go ahead and do it now. My guess is Toronto FC anticipates that there is going to be more news or developments on this going forward. And both Herdman and Toronto FC were eviscerated in the Friday/weekend media in Canada. So with the drone investigation continuing in Canada right now, so you have John Herdman being continues to be investigated once again. And this was how Armin Badakian phrased it at One Soccer. We'll get you to Rick Westhead here in a second. Once again, you don't want Rick Westhead on a byline attached to you. And once again, you had Badakian at One Soccer basically quote the press release with an introductory paragraph. Steps down from his position in the midst of an ongoing investigation regarding his potential role in the DroneGate spying controversy that already saw his once assistant Bev Priestman fired from her role as head coach of the Canadian women's national team. So that was what Badakian said about it, leading into the quotes from the press release. So then you go to Rick Westhead. And once again, Rick Westhead, TSN, somebody that you don't want to have attached to you. And so Westhead rolls through the release. And here's what Westhead added at the bottom. Herdman's been caught up in recent months in a drone spying controversy that has ensnared Canada Soccer. Herdman did not participate in a third-party review of allegations this summer about the inappropriate use of drones by national team staff because of, quote, scheduling issues, an investigator said. So this was literally, and there is a reason that I have held on to a particular segment and a particular interview involving John Herdman. I want to take you back once again. Take you back to July 26th. Bart Keeler joining us in a couple minutes. July 26th. Here's what John Herdman said as head coach of Toronto FC at the time.
John, I have to ask you a question on another topic. As you know, Canada Soccer is in the spotlight for alleged actions at the Olympics. I know you're no longer involved with Canada Soccer, but Kevin Blue today cited a systematic ethical shortcoming. And I wonder if you could tell us how prevalent you think spying is in world football. And during your time as Canada coach, were you a victim of it or did you take part in it?
Yeah, I mean, I arrived back late last night from the Olympics. Had the chance to watch my boy play and obviously celebrate that moment with him. And it reminds you again how hard players work to get to that moment, the sacrifices they make with them and their families. It's certainly a big moment. So landing to that news was a surprise and a shock. I think firstly, I'm devastated for the players. I think we have to, moments like this, respect that they've put some work in to be there. I've been a head coach of a team that's competed for medals, won medals, and those players need the spotlight on their talents at this moment in time. This isn't a time to sort of nitpick about scouting at tournaments. I think, whatever's happened, I think Canada Soccer are going to be conducting their internal reviews, which is the right thing to do. I'll be happy to help them with that process for sure, to tell them about the experiences we had in our competitions, etc. But for me, this is about the players. We're really putting spotlight on something that isn't, what this Olympics is about, which is their talent and their moment to shine. And I think the quicker we get back there, the better.
I think that's why it is news, though, because it is taking place at the Olympics. I'm just wondering if you can give us your thoughts on how prevalent you think this kind of thing is in world football.
Yeah, I think, I'll go through that process with Canada Soccer. I think anything I say now, it's just going to bring more spotlight to this situation. As I say, I'd like the spotlight to be back on our players as quickly as we can. For me, the integrity of the review is important. And if I'm asked to contribute, I'll be there. I think everyone will be aware of situations from, previous coaches, etc., that have been public. I think there's things in the public domain that, these things have happened before. But for me, I'm happy to help Canada Soccer in any way I can. But I would say I just want this to be about the players. I really feel for them. They have a game tomorrow, and knowing what it's like in those environments, there's enough pressure as it is. They just need to be able to focus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, but can you say whether or not you had knowledge of or involvement in any type of drone use or spying during your time?
Yeah, I mean, I come back to the question, which is, this isn't Olympic Games. It's the biggest event on the planet. It's a sporting event that has massive integrity. And for me, we have to make sure that those things are upheld always. I've always gone into Olympic Games, World Cups, big events with integrity in mind and the ability to compete at the highest level, following the rules and processes. So, from my side, as I say, I'll help Canada Soccer where I can with that review. But I'm highly confident that in my time as a head coach at an Olympic Games or World Cup, we've never been involved in any of those activities.
Highly confident in my time. Notice he didn't mention CONCACAF. Once again, that was 4 months ago. Multiple times the review knocked on his door. Penny, Sheldon, one of those. Just we'd like for you to help out.
Penny,
Sheldon,
and apparently John Herdman, multiple times was asked, decided not to be a part of the review. Bring in Bart Keeler. Hi, Bart.
Good morning.
Yes. So John Herdman out in a news dump, in a fantastic news dump by Toronto FC back on Friday.
Yes.
And before you came on, I was discussing the alleged systematic ethical shortcoming attached to Canada Soccer and to Bev Priestman, who is, I guess, in the soccer equivalent of timeout and show cause. She is Kelvin Sampson now, I guess, until further notice.
Mm-hmm.
And John Herdman in the news dump, at least in the American news dump sense. And then on a late Friday afternoon, which was a traditional news dump sense, John Herdman out at Toronto FC. Personally, I think it's best. That's what he says. I'm thinking that Toronto FC basically knows more than they think that the public knows. They know that Eli's coming. Hide your heart, girl. And the hammer might be dropping, and they don't need to have anything attached to John Herdman with him being under their employ. That's my gut.
Yeah, I think this was a conversation between Toronto and Herdman, who is obviously the focus. If not the sole focus of the investigation, the main focus of the investigation at this point. And there's an agreement between the two parties to just say, let's cut ties before, especially for Toronto, this is a CYA, because they don't want to be stuck with any real surprises. They don't want to go any further into the offseason not having an idea if they're going to have a coach. So they'd rather just say, hey, we're going to tell you to leave and we'll go find someone else.
And my gut thinks it might be Jim Curtin who wants to be the GM / technical director / head coach and have both titles in a place that would be the anti-Philadelphia, where...
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think... John, I'm still not a fan of a coach being both GM.
Oh, neither am I. No, neither am I. I mean, the less on the business card for me, the better.
Well, yes. I do think Curtin would like more control over roster decisions, because that was obviously the reason why it didn't go as well as it maybe could have in Philadelphia. And especially this year was the reason why they fell so short. But I think Toronto would be a better landing place for Curtin than, some other that may exist, particularly very locally.
Yes.
But with the difference being that MLSE will spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I know Curtin would like to have. I mean, I don't think Curtin is expecting them to spend $80 million a year for him, but,
They'll come close.
or however much they spent, whatever it was when they bought this, half the Italian national team.
Yes.
That is still indicative of a club that is willing to spend some money to bring in actually good players up and down the roster, and that's something that Curtin hasn't had. And also, I think if you're Jim Curtin, you look at Toronto as a potential academy location where you can continue to mold the younger generation. So I don't think Toronto's academy has been particularly robust.
Productive, yeah.
Yeah. That might be an opportunity for him as well. Just to kind of take some of the things that he's learned from the Philadelphia side and put that into Toronto. I mean, Toronto's the largest city in Canada and one of the top 5 in North America, if I'm
sounds
mistaken.
good.
It's a large city, and that would, in theory, mean that you have a great deal of talent to pull from, on top of a great fan base that could, support you.
Yep. And Rich once again making the point, Curtin to Toronto would hurt more than him going to Atlanta because it's unlimited budget, 100% opposite of Philadelphia. Absolutely true.
Yeah. But
within the salary cap purview, yes.
Yes, but you're going to get 3 actual DPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are, and you can drop plenty of dime on and Tim Hortons gift cards and Canadian Tire bucks on bringing all of them in. You had requested time. Yes, salary cap. Since this was a rivalry weekend in American football, you had requested time at the beginning of your appearance here this week to discuss the situation, I believe, at West by God, Virginia. And I will yield the floor. See, we need to get you over on the college football side of things. Over here.
That's where I got my podcasting start, John.
We need to get you over on the college football side to discuss West by God, Virginia. But I yield the floor for your opening statement on a Reaction Monday to discuss American college football and the situation at West by God, Virginia. Proceed.
So I just want to first off say that I've dealt this year with a lot of people saying, well, this person is a really good person. This coach is just a really great guy, and he's respected and loved. But the results on the field don't match that. And that has been the frustrating part with my fandom for 2 of my favorite teams this year. And when it came to West Virginia specifically, it was 6 years of not believing the team was going to actually do something cool or great or exciting. We had a decent season last year, and I think that was really what did it in for Neil Brown, is you had a really good close to the season in 2023. You get the win over North Carolina up in Charlotte in the bowl game. You finish with 9 wins, and you go, what can you use? How can you use this to continue to climb, to take that message they've been pushing for the past 6 years? And when you finish 6-6, in a conference that was severely depleted by the 2 biggest teams leaving, and bringing in some teams that are not at that level. By the way, that you didn't have to play for the most part. We didn't play Colorado. We didn't play Utah. We didn't have to play any of the big boys this year that came in. And the fact that you weren't able to get to even 7 wins during the regular season, the fact that you lost both of your games to the local rivals, and one of those very badly at home to open the season after, again, all this hype was built. And the way that, the team continued to lose in the similar ways, with bad mistakes on individual parts, bad schemes, both offensively and defensively. Being nice, being a good guy is great, but at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. And when you're not getting results, there's no reason to keep you around. And that's just kind of where, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but that's just where I've always been with the Gonzalo Pineda thing. Is I know he's a really great dude, and I'm sure people love playing for him. You gotta win. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't matter if your players, your guys love playing for you, but if you're not winning, what does it matter? I think probably could be said of Greg Berhalter as well, where a lot of the guys are playing for Greg, but you can't have results that don't match those expectations. And now you got to find someone who, for WVU anyway, you have to find someone who can hopefully continue a decent culture that's been built, but get results on the field and figure out how to win in a place that you're not going to get the best recruiting classes, but you've got to maximize the talent, and we'll see how that goes.
You've got to go into Pennsylvania and get kids there.
Yeah, that's the thing for West Virginia is you've got Pittsburgh and Philly that are close by. You've got the Ohio area, which is always talent. You got the DMV. You've got plenty of areas to just go get talent outside of your state, and you got to maximize it. I mean, West Virginia for a while there was, piping them in from South Florida too, and we've lost that connection. But yeah, it was disappointing. It was unsurprising. It was a relief when it finally happened.
3 ranked teams losses this year, started the season at home against Penn State. You also lost to 11th ranked Iowa State and 17th ranked Kansas State. All 3 of those at home. Then you lose backyard brawl 38-34. And then you lose 2 of your last 3 to Baylor at home by 14. Yeah. And then in Lubbock, where Texas Tech put 52 on.
You got wiped in Lubbock. I mean, those tortillas came and slapped you across the face. You couldn't get up. Mm-hmm. And again, you have to get results. Mm-hmm. And I think most West Virginia fans would agree with me. We're not expecting you to win 10, 11 games every year. But this particular season of the Big 12, John, was wide open. As you clearly see, you've got Arizona State, who's a first-timer in the conference championship. Yeah. West Virginia's never made a conference championship. We've been in this damn league for, oh, goodness, 12 years. As the person who was there for the very first Big 12 game, 70-63 against Baylor. That is the problem, right? And Dana, I think Dana's tenure kind of showed where we could be in the old Big 12, which is maybe hopefully getting a shot. We were expecting Neal, especially in the new Big 12, to find a way to get us to the actual championship game. And I think that's just where we are at, is we need to be the expectation or the goal of making a conference championship game needs to be realistic every year, not just a statement you make.
All right. So let's go back to now that the American football discussion has gone away, at least temporarily, until I sit there and vent my spleen about my program with a $63 million buyout. One of the reasons that we brought you in, other than American football, was to discuss bomb pops on parade in London. And they're
not melted this time. It was cold. It looked
you had 98 bazillion people watching Wiegman v. Hayes, and it ended up a goalless draw.
Yeah. I think if you were to evaluate this game as an entirety, that was probably the only negative, is no goals. And at some point it looked like maybe the only goal was going to come from a penalty kick, which was very erroneously called. I understand why it was called on the field. I truly do. I'm glad that VAR was implemented to not have that as a penalty kick, because that was not a penalty kick.
Yes.
It was not a handball.
No.
John, this is one of those where I saw someone tweet that they would, or Skeet, I forget which app it was on, but they were like, we should make this kind of a Thanksgiving tradition.
Ooh, I like that.
And back and forth depending on where it is. I honestly wouldn't mind a November window always being in Europe. I think the U.S. men used to do this a lot, especially under Klinsmann. I think they should get back to that. And it gives you something to just look forward to for the Thanksgiving slate. It gives you a little different taste on your palate, other than the American football you've been in.
I mean, seriously, if you started your day in England with like a 9 a.m. Eastern time U.S. kick, it's 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yep.
You're done by 11. You get your pregame show done. Then you can focus on American football for the rest of the day. We have programmed a solution for November 25th.
And for a network like TNT and TBS that doesn't really have college football, which is changing. I believe that they are getting college football for the playoff. Is that this happening?
Yeah, they're a part of it. Yes.
Okay. That I think it's a great programming thing, and I think when you look at not just this being 1 versus 2 this year, because that's what it was, but just 2 programs that seem to value the women's teams very highly. That's the type of production you want to give to the rest of the world to force them to up their game when it comes to supporting with the women's side. And you're getting another one tomorrow with Netherlands. And I think that in itself, John, is really the big takeaway from this game. Because when you're looking at the US play this game specifically, you don't have triple espresso. You don't have Katarina Macario. So those are 4 best attacking players, that and if you're not having Sophia Smith start in the center, it's going to be Kat starting the center. And then after that, you didn't even have a Mia Fischel who's still coming back from injury. You didn't really have a true striker, which needs to be something Emma Hayes figures out long term. I'm a little surprised that Ashley Hatch hasn't come back into the fold a little bit. She had a decent season for Washington. But when you don't have that, okay, well, you don't score any goals. You still created some decent chances. You still had opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net. Mary Earps proved that she's pretty darn good, John.
I've heard this.
So did Alyssa Nair, and I think defensively you didn't really give up any true chances to England that were super scary. I thought Gurma did a great job. I thought Kruger had a pretty decent game. And I think that is the takeaway is, well, you didn't give up any real chances to a very good England team. And although you didn't score any goals without your top talent, you still created a decent amount of chances.
10-4 in the shots, 3-1 on target, 54% possession. But once again, possession for me is like time of possession in American college football. It's what you do
with it.
Learned
from Friday night, John, means diddly squat.
Yes. Once again, Americans, in our review, once again, no attack in the midfield looked disjointed. Nothing hit the target second half. Now let's go through the numbers. Alyssa Nair gets a 5. It's like, yeah, Alyssa Nair gets a 5. And we do this because Theodore Lloyd Hughes, TLH, was the one in response for the numbers this time from our friends at Soccer America. And we do this as a part of either agreeing, disagreeing, or refuting the numbers that are presented here, just to give everybody a baseline for what went down. So Alyssa Nair gets a 5. Reliable as ever. In all honesty, with such peerless performances from the defenders in front of her, she had very, very little to do. Only save she had was from Leah Williamson header, corner kick second half. Ball trickled into the Americans' gloves with ease. So she gets a 5. So TLH promotes the ever-loving daylights out of her. She gets a 5.
I guess, yeah. Sure. I understand what he's saying, but that seems.
Bruh, come on. Defenders, once again, Naomi Girma, Casey Kruger was also, and Casey Kruger, I needed to pull this. I needed to pull this highlight down, but Casey Kruger gives just as well as she receives.
Yeah.
90 plus, there was a moment where it's a goalless draw, and you're thinking, okay, both sides are thinking, yeah, okay, it's cool, we'll get out of here, goalless draw. So Casey Kruger gets knocked off her feet and gets sent basically into the coach's area, the coach's box, and she's down for a little bit. But then when she gets back up, ball is sent forward, and she is more than happy to dial up a receipt, and it was an instant receipt. She wasted no time on the payback on this one.
I really did like that response from her. It was kind of funny because she did get a foul call for that instance on the sideline.
Wow.
As it should have been a foul, and she made sure that wasn't just the only payback that England got for that. And that again, that's what this type of game. I mean, this game is not friendly. Both of these teams want to win. I mean, again, England's number 2 in the world. They want to be number 1. And if you're talking England is looking at this as the first real step toward preparing for Euros 2025, well, you're not going to get a better team than the U.S. at Euro. So this is the best possible way to look at this as to prepare for that tournament.
There was 248 years of history attached to those.
Also that.
I mean, it literally. But I like that. I like that late in a match.
Absolutely.
That A, you're still dialed in, but B, you're not going to take any ish from someone that wants to try to you can give whatever degree of a hit you want. You can say it was cheap. You can say it was late. You can say it it wasn't square or anything like that. But yeah, someone plows you over. Casey Kruger is like, okay, I'll remember that. Oh, it's not like the Red Wings and the Avalanche where they wait 371 days for Aaron McCarty to chase after Claude Lemieux. It literally was within 30 seconds. Yep. Casey Kruger adheres to the code and gives the payback. I was a fan.
As she should. That's some also like some mom energy of like, you're not getting this over on me, which I appreciate.
Emily Fox, Emily Sonnet got 6s. Naomi Girma, Casey Kruger got 7s on the day.
Yeah, makes sense. Girma had a really good day. I think she again proved how great she is at this sport.
Yes, and as always, top of the ladder when it comes to the Soccer for US PODs MVPs. So you always, it's Naomi Girma, and then it's like, yeah, we'll talk about everybody else.
Yeah.
All right. So forwards, midfield. Rose Lavelle gets a 5. Sam Coffey gets a 6. Lindsey Horan got a 4.
Yeah.
TLH says a somewhat anonymous performance for Captain Lindsey Horan, who continues to struggle to find the passing tempo needed, timing of late runs, or the box threat.
Mm-hmm.
Took more shots 3 than any other player, but they were all rather poor.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment of her. I thought Coffey was really darn good this game, though. I thought Rose had a really good game with a couple of good recoveries, ball recoveries, especially higher up the field, which is kind of what I think Hayes realizes is going to be necessary for this team to truly generate a lot of chances, especially without triple espresso. But when you get those 3 in there, getting the ball recoveries high up the field are going to be great ways to get those players into attack. So I thought Rhodes had a pretty good game. I don't think Lindsay was a 4, but I would also have rated all the midfielders a slightly higher rating. So
Lavelle quiet in the first half, looked impressive after the break when Yasmin Ryan came off the bench. Ryan's penchant for underlapping allowed Lavelle to drive forward, get into the box. Just one shot off target for Lavelle on an outing where she passed better than she attacked.
And that, well, I'm sure we'll get to her quickly, but Yasmin Ryan is the one player you should talk about after this game.
Forwards, Emma Sears gets a 4. Lynn Williams gets a 5. Alyssa Thompson gets a 6. Let's see. So Speedster Sears.
I want to take a beat on Thompson. Sorry.
Go for it.
This was a great game for Alyssa Thompson, not because she played great, but you know who she was going up against, John? Lucy Bronze. And I don't know if you know this, but she's an elite.
I have heard.
Player.
I have heard.
And I think for Alyssa, this was a great chance to see what it takes to be the best. I mean, Lucy Bronze is top 10 player, period. As a right back. And that battle all game, I think Bronze absolutely got the better of Thompson for the most part, but I think that is a great learning game for a very young Alyssa Thompson to, again, understand what it takes for her, what it's going to take for her to level up.
Could have had the opening goal after 5 minutes when she picked up a Sears pass, took a touch, powerful shot toward the corner. Earps pulls off a good save to keep it goalless. After the break, Thompson faded. Both her and Williams were moved in the 73rd as it started to feel like the USA had stagnated going forward.
Yeah.
Lynn Williams had almost twice as many caps coming in, 73, than all the other U.S. forwards on the squad combined. To her credit, passage in the first half, stopped a counterattack in its tracks at the halfway line, remains an elite presser and counter presser. Perhaps not the box threat needed in this game. Well,
correct. That was always going to be the problem, is Lynn Williams is not a true 9, and she doesn't really have the skills to be a false 9. That's not her game, and it kind of showed the whole time.
Yasmin Ryan. There were 3 paragraphs written by TLH at Soccer America about Yasmin Ryan. Why were there 3 paragraphs written about the Gotham FC player?
Well, I think first off, we didn't see a whole lot from her in the October camps. Part of that is just because That was her first time playing for the national team. But she came in and changed the game. I mean, you talked about a little bit of a lull happening midway through that second half. She came in and provided not just a spark, but an actual outlet for attack. She was making runs in behind. She was getting the ball at her feet and trying to take on players. It was a really good game for me, Yasmin Ryan, to the point where you go, oh, this is a woman who, after one camp, got her confidence. Because sometimes that first national team camp, you come in and you're just brimming with confidence. You're overflowing with it because you're like, I got a call up, finally. And that's great. But sometimes it can also be the opposite where you're like, oh, man, it's my first camp. I got to be perfect. I got to do this. I got to do that. So for example, Emma Sears, I think her first camp was great because she just kind of played the way she always has. I think Yasmin Ryan now figured out, how do I play within the system? How do I use my skill set to play within this system? Because she's very good on the ball. She's basically a midfielder who plays out on the wing. And I think she was able to do that a lot when she came into this game.
Third ever cap, multiple slip passes across face of goal, should have been finished off, cross forced Earps off her line, needed to be punched away. Also had the shot that almost won the penalty, but then it was reversed by VAR. Balance made it very hard for England defenders to guess which way she would go. Ace had her switching wings during the match to increase the threat level, brought out the best in Lavelle, helped make the field feel bigger, if I could speak English goodly on a Monday.
Yeah, I think the point about Lavelle is very important because I think Rose Lavelle is best when she has some wingers that she can combine with. Both Rose and Lindsay aren't exactly positionally sound, which is a fine thing. They're very good at what they do. And so Lavelle being able to play off Yasmin Ryan on either side was really fun to watch and really important for this team going forward because that is the most similar to what we're going to see from be it Swanson or Rodman or even Smith. I mean, they're going to interchange a lot because they're all good on it wherever they happen to be on the field. So Yasmin Ryan being able to do that is a good plug-in for those players when they're gone.
Jaden Shaw got a 5. Corbin Albert got a 5. Ali Sentner becomes the 8th different player, 21 years old or younger, to appear for the USA in 24. The most in a calendar year since what year, sir?
Well, can I get a hint? What,
sure.
2000s?
It ain't recent.
Probably 90, 89 or 90.
Well, I should have said 21st century, but it ain't.
Oh, 21st century.
21st century, but it ain't recent.
2009.
2002.
10. Really? It was before the 2023 World Cup.
Including Heather O'Reilly, Hope Solo, Ali Wagner, Abby Wambach.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. That makes sense. Yeah.
8th different player, 21 years old or younger, to appear for the USA in 2020.
That makes sense. Yeah, I always forget that was the start of the Hope Solo, Abby Wambach transition, because I always still think that the 99ers are still all part of that team, and they weren't part of the 2003 World Cup. That's correct. Yeah.
Still undefeated record with the national team now 14-0-2. Second time the USA's failed to win since Emma Hayes became head coach in June. The other was a goalless draw against Costa Rica.
Yeah, but did they really?
Nah. So you had the subs, yellow cards. Coffee got 1. Kelly got 1 at 90 plus 4. It was a Finnish crew, Finnis.
Yeah.
Letavada was the ref in the middle. Haivanen, Paavolainen were your ARs. Satu Miettinen was your 4th. Antti Munuka was your VAR, and your AVAR was Jukka Honkanen. I just like saying Finnish last names as we go through here. Shots on the day, USA 10-4. Shots on target 3-1. Ergo, more saves for England, 3-1.
Yeah.
Six corners compared to 3. 12 fouls called in the match, 7 on England. 3 offsides, 2 for England possession, 54-46. Whoopi Blankendu. USA was off to The Hague, and they're going to face off against the Netherlands in their last match of 2024 tomorrow at 2:45 Eastern time.
Yeah, I thought I thought the referee had a interesting game.
Okay. Okay. So please proceed, sir, with your
There
advice.
were a couple times that, well, first off, in like the first 10 minutes, Lindsay Horan gets absolutely stomped on and no foul called. And I thought Horan had a couple of times where she got fouled and ref didn't do anything about it. But the penalty kick was probably the most controversial and most important part of the match. I think when it first happened, we all were like, that didn't look like a handball, and the fact that she gave it was a little. I understand why she pointed to the spot, but it was very clear upon review that it should not have been given at all for multiple reasons. Mainly, it didn't hit the non-playable part of the body, and also it hit her thigh and then bounced up. So that was probably a bad decision to begin with.
Okay. 2 instances of reffing down here that I wanted to get into, both from the Premier League this week.
All right. Yeah, we never have reffing issues in the Premier League, John.
No, we never do. And one has to do with a VAR check of 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Brighton and Southampton. And the VAR eventual decision, 4 minutes.
This game ended like 27-2. Why did we have that long of a VAR check?
Big check to see if the goal should be.
That was the wrong one. I was watching. That was Ipswich.
Ipswich, yeah. Southampton. Right. So and once again, what we do for reference is we go to our buddy Dale Johnson, who does a fantastic job of looking at the moments from the weekend in the Prem that we look at here on Mondays, and we just pull a couple of them unless there's something else from another match that really just raises our the hair on our collective neck. So now Brighton, Southampton. Southampton thought they had a 2-1 lead, and Saints players go off to celebrate, a delay of about 30 seconds before the on-field officials allowed to disallow the goal for an offside. VAR checked to see if the goal could be awarded. They eventually wiped the goal off the board. Now, Dale Johnson says it's a decision which can be explained in law, but it took far too long, makes the decision seem worse than it otherwise might have. Ref and his AR deemed that by flicking at the ball, Armstrong makes an obvious action which clearly impacts on the ability of an opponent to play the ball, and in that case, the opponent was the keeper for Brighton, Bart Verbruggen. Verbruggen's on his line, didn't move, so how can he be impacted? The law intends to prevent an offside player doing something which affects an opponent. It could be, kicking the ball, dummy. Well, think of it this way. An act which, if not present, might result in the opponent taking a different decision. Verbruggen cannot move from his position at the near post as the cross from Ryan Fraser goes close. No possible offense from Armstrong until he flicked his leg out. The law also says you don't have to think that Armstrong can score or even get a shot on target, only that the obvious action has an impact. So Verbruggen could have moved over to the center of goal to Archer sooner. The law does not demand that the keeper has been stopped from making a save, only that his ability to do so has been impacted.
Yeah. I think they got this right. I do think that these types of offside rulings should take a little bit longer because you want to make sure you are interpreting all that you just said correctly of interfering with active play. That's the rule, right? If you are involved or interfere with active play, you're going to be considered offside. And in this particular moment, the lead striker, where a ball literally runs right through his legs. It kind of basically looks like it just goes right through his legs, and he's in an offside position, or at least goes slightly behind him, but he does make an action. That to me is absolutely enough to call him offside because he is trying to involve himself in active play. It's not about touching. He made a play on a ball from an offside position that definitely interfered with the goalkeeper's ability to make a play on the ball. Period. I think, again, as the writer points out, got it correct. I do think that the time it took to get this correct is a problem. And that's where I do wish that, from what I remember, the referee never went to the monitor for this.
I don't think so.
I think this is the type of play where the referee should go to the monitor. It should be a very quick, hey, he's in an offside position. We want you to make sure that you think that he's not interfering with play, or if he is interfering with play. Let the on-field official make that decision. Again, I think the problem with the Premier League is the center referee very rarely does go to the monitor, And I think they should empower them to do that, but they keep giving someone else who's not involved in the game at all more power than they should.
3 minutes and 23 seconds to determine if the action was interrupted, and then another minute and 4 seconds to check on the offside.
Which the offside was to me, the offside was pretty clear. The player was offside, and so that's where I would be looking at it. And this is why, again, I don't understand why. When you watched it originally, you should be checking for an offside. The goal scorer was not offside. Okay, fine. But when you looked at it immediately, that patch, you go, oh, that dude is offside. Like, he is in an offside position very clearly. And in fact, the goal scorer was darn close to being offside in his own right. So that's where I'm going. Okay, it's very clear that there's an offside question here.
Yes.
The goal scorer may have been onside. Okay, fine. Check that off. Fine. But then you have to go, well, this player wasn't in an offside position. Roll the tape. Ooh, that looks like it could be a problem. Hey, I forget who the center referee was, but hey, John, go to the monitor, see if you think that this was interfering with active play. If this interfered with the goalkeeper's ability to make a play on the ball. And good job.
Yes.
That, I'm not saying it would have taken less time, but I think the problem is when you're just have the center referee standing there almost twiddling his thumbs, waiting for, putting his hand up to his ear going, oh, I'm checking, they're checking. It just seems so passive versus a referee going to a monitor to go look at it and say, okay, what do I think happened here? Especially when, in this case, it was very clear the player was offside. This is not about MLS telling them to go to a monitor to maybe determine if they're offside or onside. We know they are because the Premier League has that technology. So then for me, the next step should be the on-field official needs to look at the play to determine if this was offside or not.
All right. And so if you work backwards, let's just say you work backwards, even if you don't go to the monitor, the offside decision was 1:04.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been the easiest one to sit there and go, yes, no. It's like ding, 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 boom. And then you move on. And then working backwards, it would not have taken 4 minutes and 27 seconds to come up with a decision. A, if you go to the monitor and take a peek with me. B, maybe if you work backwards and go, okay, offside, not offside. Okay, ding, ding, ding. We got that taken care of. That takes, 15, 20 seconds. And then you go and you focus on the other 3.5 minutes to get something done with two actions.
I think to have that action take 3.5 minutes to review is crazy, honestly.
Go to the monitor, people. It's just like, look, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you go to the monitor. I'm not going to think less of you as an individual if you go to the monitor.
Nope. And again, then it puts the decision-making in the hands of the on-field official, which is, I think, what most people would be more comfortable with.
Yeah. Item number 2 comes from Liverpool, Manchester City, and it's the Ortega penalty call. As he goes and he chases after this one. And this is an important point that needs to be made in these kinds of situations where I know that there was hue and cry, and there was quite a hue and quite a cry about it being nothing there because Ortega was making a play for the ball, and it looked like Diaz just basically fell over Ortega, and you get the penalty call. So Luis Diaz chasing after a loose ball. Stefan Ortega is first to get to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But then Luis Diaz, who is second, ends up making contact with Ortega as Ortega is stretching to make contact. Luis Diaz goes over the top of Ortega, and it is called a penalty. It is then reviewed. The penalty stands. So was there a case for offside? Was there a case for a red on Ortega? And was this even a penalty, or was Luis Diaz kind of sitting there and fishing for a call? So this is what we're staring at in this particular instance.
Yeah.
So there's there's a lot to unpack here. And if you want to go through it in real time or instance to instance to instance, instead of staring at it from 30,000 feet and you want to walk through the play, go ahead and walk through the play as you see it.
Well, so this is where I understand it's tough because most people are going to say Ortega, oh, well, he gets the ball or some level of that type of commentary, right?
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate that winning the ball as a defender does not mean that you are excused from making a foul. And I think that's the problem here is you can argue that, in this case, the goalkeeper is there first.
Yeah.
I think you can, but did they get the ball first? And that's the question. I don't know, John. This is a tough one because I get the point, but because there's very minimal contact. But the reality is the goalkeeper doesn't touch the ball, right? He doesn't. He may get to the place first, but he doesn't touch the ball. So the attacker having to jump over them.
He doesn't. The attacker does not have to take evasive action.
He doesn't have to. He could have just ran through him, and then we're talking about having a fight because someone's mad about him running into the goalkeeper. And so to me, it's like, well, he at least tried to avoid him.
Yeah.
Do I think he was probably, I don't even know, I don't think he was looking for a foul that badly anyway. Again, he didn't really drag his feet. He tried to chip the goalkeeper and go over him because he knew he could probably score from there. And again, I think the goalkeeper gets the spot first. I don't know if he gets any of the ball, but he doesn't intentionally get the player, but he's in the path of the player to get to the ball, and he's not in a position to play it at that point in time. And that is the problem with the goalkeeper when they go to the ground like that specifically, or any defender when they go to the ground. Once you have committed to the ground to winning that ball, well, you're no longer in consideration for playing that ball once it goes past you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say like, oh, they're within playable distance now. It's like, well, the ball's behind them and they're laying on the ground. So what is a playable distance at that point? I think eventually I think this is probably the correct call, but this goes to one of those like, yeah, it's a foul, but should it be a penalty kick?
As it is classed as
that's the problem.
Stopping a promising attack on a penalty rather than dog so. No yellow card.
Okay, so this is not dog so because there's a legitimate play on the ball.
Right.
I mean, it's as simple as that, right? I mean, he is absolutely the last offender. It's absolutely a dog so thing. But because, I mean, I think it's fair to say this goalkeeper was he wasn't trying to foul the player. He was trying to win the ball. He just didn't. Right. I mean, I don't even think he like reached out and tried to grab him from what I can tell.
No, he's thinking ball first, and then whatever happens.
And so when we classify this as dog, so it's probably dog so yellow is maybe what they call it versus stopping a promising attack. But regardless, this outcome is because this is not a red card because there was a legitimate play on the ball in the penalty area. We don't want to give teams both a red card and a penalty kick, aka a goal down. That's where we are. Now, at the same time, I know it's unfair to call any penalties against Manchester City. That's somehow this year.
This season, I'm not so sure.
Those checks stopped clearing all of a sudden, I think is what happened. But that is just not a dog so red because this is a legitimate play to win the ball. He just doesn't. And again, even if he had gotten a piece of it, if he still comes through and clears out the attacker, again, winning the ball does not preclude you from fouling someone.
All right. So what's going on with the Soccer for US POD? Are you waiting for the next match to happen?
So we'll have the match tomorrow, which is, as you mentioned, in Den Haag against Netherlands.
Yep.
And we will be recording for the episode after that later this week. Maybe trying to get some different voices on here. Hopefully they respond and say they can do it. And kind of it for actual matches this year. The final U.S. soccer match of the season is tomorrow. And then we'll be having some kind of year in review and 2025 look forwards. Always like to do those like resolutions for U.S. soccer. Will come up in the new year, but we'll also have some of our favorite moments of 2024 coming out right before Christmas. And I'm sure doing some other things for the festive not festive fixtures, the festive, what's the word we wanted? The festive foolishness that
Sure.
does during the holiday weeks and all that. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah, it's just
holiday hullabaloo.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So the shenanigans that we have during December as we get ready.
Seasonal shenanigans. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The holiday hullabaloo and the seasonal shenanigans where we try to pronounce Finnish Finnish referee crews as best we can. Yes, we're looking forward to episode CV, where you do not have to put up a resume, but you'll be looking at the USMT resume after a full season of 2024, and we'll be catching up with you obviously again next week and whenever the hell you want to come drop by and vent about West by God, Virginia, and anything else going on in bowl season.
Well, John, we do have a MLS Cup final coming up this Saturday. So I will say I will not be able to watch it live. I'll be at a Casey Musgraves concert so I'm doing 2 nights in a row with her. But I will be watching it on Sunday on my drive home.
I assume someone else will be driving while you're watching.
On my ride home, I should say.
Okay. Checking.
And we'll be ready to. I'm sure, John. We will have something to talk about referee-wise on Monday.
Oh, I'm quite sure. Yes, I'm quite sure.
I do have to say, John, Ricky Puig, whatever,
Ricky
with
Puig.
a torn, somehow severed ACL.
Torn.
Insane that he's still able to play that and play as. I mean, that is good for him. But that is a huge loss for Galaxy going to this match. I don't know if it changes, that I still think they're the favorite, but man, that's cool. Also, shout out to some women's soccer history. This will be the first MLS Cup final, another MLS Cup final, I should say, hosted in a World Cup final stadium. That's pretty cool.
There you go. But no, definitely going to be looking at it all week long and trying to figure out what's going on. Jay Entlick, head coach for Columbus State, is going to be joining us on the women as they continue to advance. He's going to be joining us tomorrow morning at 9:30 to break down what happened on the weekend and talk some Division II women's soccer as well.
We got Division I soccer up this weekend. So
yeah, so we're going to be taking dives into college soccer and going through all that stuff. So we will be enjoying episode CV, my friend, coming out later on this week. And once again, whenever you want to drop in.
Yeah. Cheers, y'all.
There he goes. Oh, what's the mug, by the way? I forgot to ask.
Happy holidays. It just says happy holidays because today's the first. There you go. Today's the first day that I've seen you of the Christmas season. So
okay, and so this is when everybody starts hanging up all of their stuff. And
you can't see, but my stuff is starting to go up. We got to put up some.
Yeah, we got the tree yesterday, and we're waiting for the tree to floof before we add all of the appropriate.
My tree will be going up today and tomorrow, probably. So.
Yes. All right. Be good, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Bye, y'all.
All right. There goes Bart. And Derek, incredulous player. What? I got the ball. Yeah, but you also broke the player's ankle. I know. So, all right. So, yeah, we just got that. As I was Bart was discussing things. Jay Entlick, the head coach at Columbus State, number 2 ranked team in Division II on the women's side. He's going to be joining us tomorrow morning at 9:30 to discuss the weekend. And the week that will be as they're chasing after a national championship. So good stuff there. All right. So let me go back into the article. Yes, Teemu Selanne and Mikko Koivu. Don't forget Saku Koivu and all of the other famous Finns. I want to go back to the article that Rich brought into the timeline this morning. There is some other things that we do have to break down. And it's from our friends in Sportico. So Liga MX teams to vote on a formal investment from Apollo and the NFL. And Liga MX does need the investment. I will say that. From our friends at Sportico, Liga MX says it's reached a formal agreement on an investment from Apollo Global Management and the National Football League, pending a vote of approval from all 18 teams to pool some of the league's commercial rights. I don't know how that's going to work because there have been, for as long as folks can remember, the teams had their individual TV deals. I don't know if that's going to work out well, and I don't know if, say, Cruz Azul is going to like to share revenue with Juarez. I don't know if they're going to like that. Letter sent to owners on Friday, copy of which viewed by Sportico. Liga MX president Juan Carlos Rodriguez outlined the agreement, which could be, quote, the largest transformation project, end quote, in the history of Mexican football. The result of months of negotiation that started with $1.25 billion influx of capital from Apollo. Moelis has been advising the league in its talks with prospective investors. Agreement would give Liga MX more capital, stronger corporate governance, and a reorganization of the soccer pyramid in the country, the letter says. Also includes the creation of an entity, La Comercializadora, to house grouped commercial rights such as sponsorships and media deals. Perhaps most notably, the letter mentions participation in the investment by the National Football League and also talks with Major League Soccer about an expansion of their ongoing partnership and a possible Leagues Cup 2.0 starting in 2027. Liga MX clubs will have access to the deal points this week, the letter says, meetings later in the month with the goal of securing votes. Letter doesn't share specific financial details. Rodriguez did immediately respond to an email seeking comment. Representatives for NFL and MLS declined immediate comment. Reps for Apollo and Moelis did not respond to an email seeking comment. So ain't nobody talking. I'm guessing until the vote happens and it's either yayed or nayed, we're not going to find out much. Apollo 2 years ago prepping that investment offer to Liga MX. Sportico reported at the time that the firm was seeking 20% of the profits from the league's non-Mexican media rights over the next 50 years, a bet that the most watched soccer league in the United States has significant commercial growth in its future beyond its home country, offer contingent upon the clubs agreeing to sell their broadcast rights as a whole. And that's what we just talked about. Unlike most leagues, Liga MX currently allows individual teams to ink their own commercial partnerships. Chivas Club America signing deals in the U.S., which has more than 36 million people, because remember, Chivas, I believe, is Telemundo, and Club America, I believe, is Telemundo, if I remember correctly. And last year, Liga MX clubs had deals with 5 different broadcasters domestically, 4 in the U.S. One of the most storied teams, Club America, is owned by Televisa. Unclear how the financial terms offer have changed in the years of negotiations followed. Also unclear how likely it is that the richer Liga MX teams agree to a significant overhaul. Because like I said, once again, if you want to try to get everything, why? I feel like Ross all of a sudden. Why would Club America? Why would Chivas? I mean, Toluca, I believe, has a deal specifically with TUDN. And Santos Laguna, I believe, has one, at least domestically, with Fox Deportes. Why would these clubs, specifically like Chivas and Club America, why would they sit there and go, you know what? I think that I'm going to give up some of my my own rights. So everybody is just going to share in the, well, no, why? Why would I take less money to help out other folks? If you view the glass as the glass, you may understand that idea. And maybe more money on the back end, as Rich says. You know, in theory, if that was to be the case. But in the short term, why would I sit there and negotiate on the whole? Unless you get the teams that have those larger TV deals, you get them in line. Hey, this is for the betterment of the league. We can reinstitute promotion and relegation with the Liga de Ascenso. And one of the silliest things for me in the years past, involving Liga MX teams, was that if you did not make the playoffs, you got fined for not making the playoffs. And the worse your team did, the more you got fined. Where is the incentive other than – so the incentive by the league is that you better spend money. If you don't spend it well, if you spend a lot of money and you still end up being bottom 3 or bottom 4, let's say you finish last. If you spend money and you still finish last, that should say something about your front office. then you continue to spend more money and invest more money after bad. So after the clausura, just as this is once again from AS. From AS in 2023, May 1st. Trio of Liga MX clubs are to pay performance-related fines used to support teams in the Liga de Expansión. I get that, just in general. I get it. But why? Why do that? You know? And the fines that are there, it is literally for more than it would be otherwise. Oh, great. Now that that AS is up. Yeah, right. So you go to an article from AS, and it just locks everything up. Good job. All right. We might be back. I think we might be back, at least on the hard line. Anyway, it's 11:02. I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time and just say we'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, thank you, Abby. We're going to be back tomorrow. Jay Entlick, the head coach of Columbus State, at 9:30. And then we got the rest of the show that we didn't get to talk about today and all the other things that are going on in and around the world. So thanks a lot for hanging out through the dead air. You're here, we're here. So once again, all right, so let me do this. Let's do gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and then we'll hang it up and we'll do it again tomorrow. So for some reason, the camera on, and I don't know why. I might just have to reset the whole freaking thing. So here we go. We'll do gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And then we'll get out of here. And then we'll do it again tomorrow. So I'm staring at other computers that, ISDN lines and everything, and it ain't working. So who knows what's going on. But anyway, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, where to go, what to do. All right. So PSG apparently is in talks with Mo Salah. That's from L'Equipe. Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs monitoring U21 forward Jamie Gittins over at Borussia Dortmund. That's from Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. United, Spurs, Barca, PSG sent scouts to watch Omar Marmoush at Eintracht Frankfurt in Europa League on Thursday. Bournemouth willing to consider offers for Antoine Semenyo, who got the hat trick on the weekend. Liverpool among the clubs interested in the Ghanaian forward. Arsenal in advanced talks with Real Sociedad over Roberto Olabe to succeed Edu as sporting director. Bournemouth, Brentford, Southampton eyeing Fabio Silva on loan at Las Palmas from Wolves. Liverpool, Bournemouth, Brentford, Southampton eyeing Fabio Silva on loan at Las Palmas from Wolves. Liverpool hope to beat Manchester United to the signing of Milos Kerkesh from Bournemouth, £40 million. Newcastle willing to sell Kieran Tierney in January. Al Hilal set to rival Arsenal for the signing of Alberto Molero, the 21-year-old winger. Luton would have to pay as much as £1.5 million to sack Rob Edwards because of the 4-year deal he signed in the summer. That's from the 3-letter paper. So now, all right, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll get into that here in a sec, and then we'll get out of here. Apparently, there are games today in Serie A. Sevilla Osasuna's at 3 on ESPN Deportes. Gold TV, the Portuguese Primera, Porto and Casa Pia at 3:45. You can get Gold TV, all the BNs, TIC, Nuestro Tele, for the fans, Liga 1 Max Pro at fntz.co/soccer down here. And with that, you can turn into a true degenerate. Liga 1 Max Pro, Uruguay, all of them. You can catch up with our buddy Nino Torres at Gold TV. And to get that, once again, fntz.co/soccer down here, you get Fanatis, and you become a true degenerate. I blame Jason. Just ask him. The Plus also has the La Liga match. AFC Champions League has Al Ahly and Istiklal at 11, as well as Al Wazl and Al Rayyan, 1 o'clock Al Nasser and Al Sadd. Paramount Plus also has the Serie A at 2:45, Roma and Atalanta. Argentine Primera, 5:45, Talleres Cordoba, Huracan, Independiente Rivadavia, Argentinos Juniors at 7:30. Germany and Italy in a women's friendly is at 2:30. Now, that's today. Tomorrow, you got union rumors? Rich, you might have to tell me what's going on, but apparently silly season is underway according to folks in the timeline and Tommy Scoops and all that kind of stuff. Apparently Ian Harkes has been dealt. So Tom Bogert. Oh, wow. He had his check mark taken away. Okay. San Jose have acquired Mark Anthony Kaye, Dave Romney, and Ian Harkes from the Revs. Revs get around $500,000 in GAM and an international roster spot. So that means that once again, not really a shock that Bruce Arena would go to familiar places to try the rebuild. Mark Anthony Kaye, Dave Romney, Ian Harkes, to San Jose from New England. Revs get $500,000 in GAM and an international roster spot. Also on the board, New England signing Mali international center back Mamadou Fofana from Amiens. L'Equipe first reporting it. Sources say the deal's around at $1.7 million. constant starter for Amiens the last 3.5 years, started with Mali as well. So, yeah, and Ricky Puig playing 30 minutes with a torn ACL. So that's what we know. Okay, striker is leaving the team to Austria. Okay, so thank you, Rich. Like I said, I'm staring at other computers, and HDMIs and ISDN lines are down. So this is where I'm doing to wrap up what I'm doing to wrap up the show. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 9:05. Hopefully, I'll be able to see you. You'll be able to see me. We can talk. We'll go through stuff. That's the official term. So since we're here in a little less than 22, enjoy Cyber Monday. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and you can tell me how you were and how much shopping you have left to do. For everybody here at SDH, maybe we'll have lighting and power and be in the 21st century tomorrow. Thanks for dropping by. We'll catch up with you soon. Play it safe, everybody. Since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this. I